And they say it's about the fish, but
Under
it
the
has
guise of
nothing to
saving
do with
fish, right?
fish. Yeah,
Exactly.
If you look at Potter Valley, this is one that blows my mind. They cut off water over the summertime to, all the farmers in Potter Valley, anybody who depends on the Russian River for irrigation. And their reasoning was because they had to have more water going down the Eel River in order to, maintain the fish population, keep them healthy. If you actually look at, what the dam is supposed to supply the Eel River, it's about 4 to 6 times what actually comes out of the Eel River headwaters during the summer months. So the dam in and of itself is sustaining the fish population downstream from the Eel River. You remove that, and they're not even going to get the water flows that they cut off farmers and ranchers in order to get over the summertime. So it's all an optics thing. It has nothing to do with fish. They remove the dam, the fish aren't going to survive. And then on top of that, they removed a bunch of farmers off of Point Reyes because of the Tule elk, and yet they're going to have to depopulate the Tule elk, which there's over, I think, 1,000 head in the Potter Valley area. They're going to have to depopulate it. Some people have said as much as 90%. I don't know where that number comes from, but I do know that Fish and Wildlife has actually increased hunting licenses and tags this year in anticipation that they're going to be taking down the Scott Dam. And so you have these kind of optics of we're doing this for the environment, we're doing this for the animals, but yet it's killing hundreds of thousands of fish. It's causing them to depopulate elk populations. The Tule elk is unique to California. There's probably 5,000 or 6,000 of them. There's 5,000 wolves in the lower southern states. They're federally protected, but the Tule elk is just protected in the state of California, and their governor is willing to wipe out large swaths of their populations just to take down these dams.
And I know people who are personally affected by these particular dam removals. I've been there. I've interviewed the folks there. Like I mentioned, a good personal friend of mine. I've spent time at her ranch with my family. We've seen the heartbreak, and for the folks out there listening, it's like, oh, wow, agriculture policy. No, these are real people whose lives are being turned upside down. And if you know anything about farming and ranching, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. It's hard to do all of that in addition to fighting legal battles with the government. And some of the people I know out there, they've just been terrorized now by the state. They're flying drones over their property and, arguing with them about ponds and retention things. Just really, really horrible how they're treating these farmers.
Well, and in California, the other thing about this, when you talk about South Africa, the governor has this committee that's pulled together. It's like the Ag Equity Committee, and their plan is basically to use grant funds from the state of California to buy back land from farmers. And you're probably wondering who would sell their farm, but if you take down a dam and take away all of their water, their land kind of becomes worthless, so it becomes super cheap for the government to buy back. But they can't continue to manage that property anymore because, and a lot of these people, like the Potter Valley Scott Dam, it's been there for 100 years. So a lot of them had no idea that this was even a possibility. But then they want to buy back this land and basically grant it back out to, to diversify to, minorities. But a lot of that's also going to remain in state hands and go into renewable energy projects. And if you look at California right now, they've got one nuclear site that I think is costing the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars to keep operating at this point in time. But their solar projects haven't done very well either. They spent $2.2 billion on a solar farm out in the desert that is shutting down next year. So it's sad, but they're actually, a lot of these projects that seem to be shutting down farmers and ranchers are coupled with this plan to basically buy back a bunch of land and redistribute it.